I'll call the East Lyme Board of Selectmen meeting to order. It's a regular meeting tonight, January 22nd. If you'd all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance if you can, and I'll ask Art Carlson to lead us tonight into the pledge. Do you remember how it starts?
I pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Isabella, would you like to sing the Star Spangled Banner or something? No, okay. Right on top of our agenda tonight, before we get into the meat of it, I'd like to introduce to the town, to the Board of Selectmen, to those watching on TV, and to our audience, our esteemed audience tonight, our new Fire Marshal, John Way. Would you step forward, please? Folks, I give you John Way, our new Fire Marshal. I congratulate you. He's already been sworn in, because he's been on the job for like a couple of weeks already.
Yes, sir.
All right. But what I have is a town seal, lapel pin. So I'll give you one of those. Thank you. This makes it official. I don't know that, or we're going steady. You brought a lot of friends with you tonight, and your family. I'm going to let you introduce them. I'm really not good at this. We also have, of course, our town seal is a scallop shell, and it's featured prominently on our town seals, and we have one of those too. So don't wear them at the same time, but you know, when you're heading off to church on Sundays, you might want to put that on. You're probably not in the uniform. Isabella, I'm going to give you one too. Want to step on up? I know you don't live in our town yet, but someday we hope that you will, and you can, either that or you can pierce one here and put it in there. But you should be proud of your dad. There's a lot of people that applied for this job. A lot of people, a lot of qualified people. And John rose to the top, leaps and bounds, and we're really happy to have you. Okay, one more thing. Thank you. You can see. Not shy, I like it. This is a challenge coin in the military. They have challenge coins, and often when you're stepping aboard a ship or in the command, the captain, the admiral might give you a challenge coin with the ship seal. We have the town seal, of course, and on the back it says, "Together we serve our town with pride and honor and humility." You just got here, but you're serving us well, sir, so I'm going to give you that. Thank you. And I welcome you to our town. If you want to introduce yourself to the Board of Selectmen, maybe your family and friends that came out tonight. Right up to the podium.
Good evening. I'm John Way, as Mr. Nickerson said. Happy to be here, happy to be with the town of East Lyme. Tonight I brought my dad, Jim Way, and then my former captain, Steve Garvin. Over there, he's Fire Marshal with Yukon. And also Captain Burton, also with Yukon. Eve Poulin, an inspector. Tim, I'm sorry, I forget your last name, he's also with Yukon. My wife, Michelle, and my daughter, Isabella. And happy to be here, and looking forward to serving the town. Kind of jumped in right away. We've had a few things happen already, but things are going well.
Yeah, I think on day 2.
Yes.
I don't think we had you moved into your desk yet. We had you running around town fixing some stuff and helping us out. So I appreciate it. Are there any questions? Anybody have any burning desires here? Great. John.
Welcome.
Yeah, welcome.
To our
Thank
town.
you.
Appreciate your service.
Our building inspector is Steve Way. This is John Way, and somewhere way, way back there may have been a connection there, maybe a 15th cousin or something. But we have the Way brothers now, and interestingly, they both do inspections on especially new building projects and all that. So they'll work in tandem often, and they already have many times
Yes,
on our
we
new
have.
projects in town and all that. So again, welcome aboard, and we're really pleased that you're here in East Lyme.
And I think also, I just mentioned Eric Quinn, also one of the deputies, is here tonight. He came out, so obviously worked with him. So we're looking forward to serving the town. And thank you.
Thanks, John. This is a tough job. Sometimes it's 24/7, and we appreciate the family support. You can't do it without your family. We know that. And Isabella, your patience when Dad can't always be at the school event or the family dinner sometimes too. So we appreciate that. Also, it's a good testament that you have so many friends and colleagues coming all the way down to the shore in January. We expect people wanting to come here in July, but to come here in January on a cold night. He must be a special guy. So we much appreciate you coming out. Thank you very much. And you're all welcome to stay for a very long meeting.
Or not.
Well, there's an Irish bar down on Main Street. You take your pick. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. Welcome to our town. Let them clear the room. Our town is in very good hands in so many different ways with our department heads, and John just raised the bar. Are there additional agenda and consent items?
I have nothing.
No.
Oh, okay. That's terrific. Then delegations. Is there anyone who would like to speak to the Board of Selectmen this evening? Anyone at all? Okay. Approval of minutes, regular meeting.
I'll move to approve the regular meeting minutes of January 8, 2020 as submitted.
Second?
Seconded, any corrections or comments?
I'd like to, on page 1, discussion fishing dock leases, it says, motion for discussion. It says Mr. Daigle spoke on behalf of the subcommittee. I believe that should be me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember
I hate to
Mr.
put words in Paul's mouth.
Remember Mr. Salerno spoke at length about that?
So we have that change.
I'm fine with the change.
Yes.
Mr. Salerno spoke at length. We have that.
We don't have to add at length.
No, I know.
So the motion is to accept the minutes as, not as submitted with correction.
Yep.
And
I'm good with that.
We have a motion, and it's been seconded, so we're clear on what we're voting for. And are there any other corrections? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Then we'll move to the consent calendar.
I'll move to approve the consent calendar for the meeting of January 22nd, 2020 in the amount of $3,464.69.
Second?
Motion and seconded. Any further comment? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Terrific. There is no old business, so we'll move to new business, and we put right up in the front, Mr. Art Carlson is coming to give us a report, a presentation on the water quality report. And I think you're backed by members of the Conservation of Natural Resource Commission. We appreciate you all you do in our town, especially coming out tonight. Art, the podium's yours.
I've given everybody a copy of the report, and you've got 3 maps in there, and I'm going to reference that. I'm going to go, the idea is, there's a lot of details in here which I don't want to cover. We're going to go through on these 18 points, and at the last, I'll read the recommendations, which ought to be supported by the previous points, okay? This was not an easy task to take. We spent about 2 years on this thing, and we discovered some new ideas and new concepts and some old problems that we weren't aware of. The driving force, everything we did was science-based. We're short of opinions on here. We're long on the science that proves our points, okay? That's a big deal with us. The history of the town public water system. The public water system started 1970. Let's use that. I get all kinds of dates, but 1970 is a good date, okay? And what I want you to see first is the big map. This is a road system map. This is a road system of the town in 1964. Okay? And this is interesting. Why I want you to see this is, if you look north of 95, there's only Route 161, Upper Petagansett Road, Scott Road, and Whistletown Road. That's it. There's no other roads. So when this system was put in, this was a pretty virgin aquifer system. Okay? That's what's, I want you to hold that picture in mind. All decisions were made based on this wide open space that we thought, that we perceived. Key word, perceived. Okay, that's set the stage for what happens in the next 40 years. Map number 1, I'd like you to look at that one. What that is, that's a map of the watersheds and aquifers in the town. The big green at the top is the Latimer Brook watershed. Far left, the dark blue, is a 4 Mile River. Then there's a Patagonia watershed, Bry Brook. Now what I want you to see is, you see all the roads that are now in there? You can see that. Okay, so we've added a lot of load to the system. Not water load, but we've added a whole bunch of potential sources that are negative, okay? Now, what do I mean by that? There's some good research that was done in Chesapeake Bay. In fact, DEEP uses it in some of their brochures. And it has to do with the effect of creating impermeable surfaces, roads, driveways, houses, okay? When you change, their data shows, you change the impermeable surfaces from, say, 3 or 4%, which is a normal open space, to about 10%, you can expect a 10% reduction in the quality of the water that runs off of that open space. So it's just a problem. That's what happens when we put all the roads in there. And I can guarantee you there was no data that you would have thought of thinking to say, gee, maybe we shouldn't do this. Because you're starting with this big open space with 4 roads. So you're going ahead in your building. Okay? Let's see. Oh yeah, the next thing I want to do is show how water systems, how they protect their systems. There's the Metropolitan District, Hartford, which feeds Farmington, Unionville, East Hartford. They have 32,000 acres of land they bought. That's a reservoir system, and you can't use much of it all. The one that's astounding, though, is the Quabbin Reservoir. Do you know about that one? Quabbin Reservoir. It's 400 billion gallons of water, 180 miles of shoreline. And here's what you have to do if you want to put a rowboat in there. You can fish on certain days. Well, if you have to stand in the water to pull the rowboat in, you have to wear boots. And when I read that, I thought, there's 400 billion gallons of water, and they make you wear boots. The point I want to make is, people are very sensitive about how, the people who run the water supply, okay? On map number 2, take a look at that. This is a very good example of how the Patagonia aquifer gets fed. This blue line goes around all that. That's the Patagonia aquifer watershed boundary. The north end of the Patagonia watershed is a Yale property. The aquifers in there are shown by that brown with the speckle there. And we know that all the water flows from the top of the hill to the bottom, and that's Powers Lake down to the sea. Now there's 3 things, by the way, we are blessed to have Yale there, who feeds perfectly clear water to us because there's nothing on that lake, okay? I mean, that's just plain luck, okay? Now, one of the things that's going to improve our water system, or no, not improve it, stop it from slowly going in the wrong direction. Look on the right-hand side, you see that red piece of property that says ELLT in it? Can you find that?
Yep.
Okay, that says East Lyme Land Trust. That was one of the properties that we got that grant for. Okay, and what's so special about this? It's 40 acres. It's got good wildlife and all that kind of stuff, but what's even more important to us, all that water from there goes down the hill, goes through a wetland, into that aquifer, then goes south and feeds the well. So if we can pull this off, we've maintained a source of clean water for our system. Okay, that's the big deal. If we had houses there and we had a building there, that wouldn't be true. It wouldn't be as good. Okay? If you look on the other side, you can see that yellow beside Hathaway. That's the Hathaway farm. Well, look where that is. My goodness. Half of it is directly over the watershed, over the aquifer. To the left of Hathaway's farm, it says ELLT again. The land trust owns that, has the easement on that. So in that case, what you're seeing is two pieces of property that that continue to send clean water into our drinking supply. It was done by the land trust. What we have to have done, the reality is, the town has to start chipping in on this thing. The land trust, we can't assume that they're gonna do all this, okay? I'm gonna get to it and you'll see what I'm talking about in more detail. Another problem that we want to bring your attention to, switching off that map now. The state has what they call a Aquifer Protection Zone around each well. That's really a misnomer. It is a partial aquifer protection. It is not an aquifer protection in the holistic sense of that sentence that I just uttered, okay? If you look in your, and you don't have to do it now, but it'll be shown in here, okay? And why that's kind of, okay. Why I want to point this out is, we can't sit back and say we've got an aquifer protection zone, therefore by definition the water is protected. That's simply not true. Because if you look on the map, it's still flowing down from upstream. What this is really is partially science, but it's really, I call it political science, okay? When they determine the size of that aquifer protection zone, it's based only on the quantity of water you can draw. The word quality is never mentioned. That's a quantitative decision. And what you do is, not appropriate to talk about here, but you can compute the size, the volume, that I need to give me X million gallons a day or a week or month or year, okay? The point is, you have to be careful that we're not putting too much confidence in it's protected. It's truly not. Better than nothing. Okay. Another characteristic of aquifers, which shows that it's an inherent danger to us if it ever gets polluted. The flow in that underground stream, if you want to think of it that way, is about in inches per day, maybe a couple of feet per day. And what that means is, if it gets polluted, we're in trouble. Over a long haul. I'll give you a good example. Southington, they had a pollution problem. It was from a factory, I think it was. They've been pumping that, I think, for 25 years, something on that order, and it's only clean enough now to go through the sewage system. It's still not ready for drinking. So the good thing about the aquifer, there's no evaporation losses. The reservoirs, so you could lose 20% of the water per year. But the bad thing is, if we pollute it, we're stuck. Okay. And just to not put our mind at ease at all, there are 80,000 registered chemicals with the EPA, and I thought, 80,000 chemicals. There's a lot of potential out there for problems. And if you think of things like that case where the firefighting foam at the PFAS, that chemical never breaks down. It never disappears from the environment, which is a scary thing. By the way, 80,000. We have been collecting. Another thing that our commission has been doing for, I think, almost 8 years now, we have been conducting what's called what is it called, Kenny? I call it rapid bioassessment, but I just dated myself. There's a higher, fancier name, but here's what we do. We start at the north part of town and we look at Cranberry Meadow Brook, Latimer Brook, Patagonia River, and work your way down, and it's based on this. Clean water has a certain bug population. Bad water doesn't have the same bug population. So we look at the bug population, and you can make a pretty good guess on, this is not bad water, this is pretty good water. As you might expect, the water is pretty good at the top, base of north end of town, and it gets worse as you go south. Why? Because there's less virgin territory up there, and there's houses, roads, impermeable surfaces. Okay. Another problem we're going to have, which we faced, is cost, and we make suggestions on what we think you might have to do to protect our system in the long haul, and we're talking 100 years. Which is, by the way, you can't really figure 100 years, but you have to put that on the table and say, it's good if you want to use that as an amortization rate, because then you can borrow at a higher interest rate. But cost of open space, a lot of mystery about that. I've been preaching about the cost of community services, a computational program developed by the Farm Bureau about 35 years ago. Quite accurate. It's been used on 8 towns our size in Connecticut. And it, by the way, you get the same results no matter where you go. Massachusetts and New York doesn't make any difference for towns our size. And average result is for the average taxpayer, for every dollar he puts in, he gets out about $1.10 or $1.15. The average open space guy, he doesn't get back anything. He gets back 18 cents out of every dollar. Okay? So now for years I've heard, you've taken land off the tax rolls, our taxes will go up. On the contrary, I can show you the study done in Colchester where actually it went down if you got open space, okay? And if you think of it simple-minded, it doesn't need any policemen or fire trucks. It's really as complicated as it gets, okay? But you can do a pretty good job with the numbers to prove that. Oh, yes, in your book, the thing that we created, you're gonna see in the appendix, actually in Appendix 3, what the Nature Conservancy article, a Nature Conservancy article about how cities around the world have handled the water quality question. How did they handle it in San Antonio or Bolivia? They have very interesting, when you read that, it turns out, and say it was in San Antonio, I think that's what it was, they said, you know, we have to upgrade our system. And then they said, of course, we don't pay for our water. I had to read that sentence twice. We don't pay for our water either. We pay for the pumps. We pay for the mechanics. We pay for the trucks. We pay for the meters. But we do not pay for the water. And what they're doing, I think this is a Texas town, maybe that would be San Antonio. They have a tax now on the amount of the amount of water that you use, which is interesting because you don't. It's like selling gasoline and not putting price on it. That's the commodity you're selling, and we have this commodity, but we don't get any money from it. We use it up. Anyway, I wanted to make the point that we don't pay for our water. And we can bring that up if we decide that we have to do some of the suggestions that we are bringing up. One other problem we should dig deeper in, and we haven't, is that on page 55 in Appendix 3, they broach the question of whether saltwater, is there any saltwater intrusion into our freshwater supply? That would be most only relevant, I think, to the Dodge Pond well. okay? That depends on how high the water goes up, okay? So we could be losing out there. In Appendix 4 is all the data, we got all this data from a state water protection report, which is excellent, well-written. And why we put this in there is, hopefully, we'll all use this as our dictionary for definitions, okay? What is an aquifer? What is a watershed? What is this? What is that? If we have a common language here, we can discuss this. I'm not going to discuss it, now that's for everybody to read, but you'll see my point. Okay, and I think I covered the once over lightly that I want to cover, and now I want to read our list of recommendations, which are going to be based on most of these points we made, okay? And that's on page 5 of the report. Protect, and this is really so obvious, protect the upstream water supplies to maximize quality and quantity of drinking water at the lowest cost by preventing contamination. Encumber funds to purchase undeveloped land, development rights or easements in the Patagonia, Brybrook, and 4 Mile River watersheds, particularly north of existing wells. Well, particularly, wouldn't make any sense to protect it south of the wells, okay? Well, at least not too far south. Encourage new development in locations that avoid recharge areas for all town wells. Such managed growth removes risk of contamination that can have devastating cost. By the way, this is a good point on contamination. Remember MTBE, okay. We had that in our drinking supply. It took, I think, about 10 years, once we stopped that, getting out of our supply. Here's the intriguing question. How the heck did it get in there? How did it get in there? Was it exhaust from cars? Was it the drips that come out of, when you fill your tank? I couldn't find the answer. How did that get in there? All I know, it got in there, and I know that it left, but I have no idea where it got. And that was a good lesson. My God, I don't know how that got in there. What other things? What about the other 80,000? See what I mean? And that's why we go back and say, we've got to keep clean water with a big volume flushing south. That's the key to this thing. Encourage low-impact development strategies such as water gardens, minimal impervious surfaces. Minimize, this is a hard one. Minimize use of road salts and explore alternative methods. We have enough sodium in our drinking water now that if you're on a low sodium diet, call your doctor. Okay, that's in the flyer that comes out. Okay? Now, what we concluded is, my God, nobody went over to the well and dumped the salt in it. That's put on the roads. So does that mean that if it hits the road, it ultimately gets in our well? I think so. If it hits the road, it gets in the well. That's how it got there. That's kind of a scary thing. It's kind of a scary thing. It's scary for just the salt itself, but for anything else that hits the road. So, okay,